so much easier and work so much better.
I agree. I mean, I agree with everything everyone has said, and just to add to that, I think it makes for a good partnership when the partner has clear-cut goals or goals that they can share, and then we can sit together and come up with ways to achieve that. Be it in terms of approvals, or be it in terms of the volume they're looking for, the quality, or if they're looking for the mix that they're looking for. It makes it easier to start with goals, and then exchange of data to the extent that it's possible helps a lot. Because especially with us, we're able to take that data, we have a treasure trove of data on our own, combine the two, and really target and give our partners what they're looking for if we have the data from the other side as well. So that's what I would say.
It's interesting because no one said money. Return on investment, the financial aspect, we know that's important, but also compliance and having a great compliance team. Would you agree?
Totally.
Yes.
Especially in today's environment, they're in the past, and for their website marketing on the issuer side, at least, it was about growth. And so it's how many accounts, and then it kind of morphed into quality accounts, which was extremely important to us. But then after Card Act in 2011, compliance became as important as any other element in our affiliate program. So a focus on compliance from our Rackham network partners and our publisher partners, as well as us, is the way that we've found that we are able to sustain the growth rate that we've been on.
I think to add to that, when we came into Bankrate, we had a compliance team that was woefully small and not nearly enough to keep up with what I think was the demand. We've tripled the size in the last year and a half, and it's been hugely helpful to sort of lay that foundation and take that conversation. Like, now when we talk to an issuer, we don't have to talk about compliance for 3/4 of that time, which is obviously helpful. So it's a place we've invested.
Yeah, for sure. You need a strong team on the compliance side of things. So I would add to that, I think honesty is very crucial in partnerships and in the relationships. You talked about the human element and being honest with each other, with one another. I think that has gone a long way for all of us. The data you share, the relationships you built and create, and just your capabilities, what you can do, what you cannot do, but how do you go about overcoming certain challenges in forging those partnerships and relationships?
Yeah, I think we need to be upfront about, especially when we're coming up with volume estimations or something like that. We can't just oversell it to try to get the deal done. We have to really be truthful in how much we think we can do, and also not then just sandbagging it to make ourselves look better in the end. So we really want to have that honest communication and make sure that we're accurately estimating everything on our side.
Anyone else?
I would just add to Katie's points. In the relationship, you inevitably get to the very sensitive point of finance, which you just talked about. And on the issuer side, the transparency that we get from our publishers is critical because the investment is so significant. And we've got hardcore P&L goals, like our accounts have to pay back over a certain period of time, and there's not an infinite amount of money. So while it may appear that investment is unlimited on the issuer side, it's really not, and we're held to these tight metrics. And so the more transparency we get, or the more transparent we are with each other, the better off and the better we're able to grow collectively.
Excellent. So how do you evaluate your partnerships and select the right partner for you and for your company?
So I don't think that there's such a thing as a right partner, because I think what has happened since the Great Recession has been really good in terms of in the financial credit card space. So starting from 2008, if we look, there's been the major issuers, right? And then there's been a growth, immense growth in fintechs that are serving the population that traditional banks weren't serving before. And then there's also been a shift in the major banks in terms of who they're serving and coming up with the right products for those individuals. So The right partner is, so the right partner would be the right partner for the right member of ours who comes onto our platform looking for a financial product, and are we able to cater and give them something that works for them? So there's no such thing as a right partner. You know, the major issuers are the right partners for the right customers, and so are the fintechs. I think in terms of evaluating the partners, the right partner, to answer it in another way, would be a partner that we can bring on board and create a win-win-win situation where obviously it's a win for Credit Karma if we get an approval, but more importantly, a win for our member who ends up with not with a denial, but with a product that they were going to get approved for, which we can recommend to them. And then obviously with our issuer partner who gets a customer that they want to have the right time.
I think it's a bit different on the points guy side because we are a very specific type of audience. That's really the frequent traveler looking for rewards, hungry to learn about how to redeem them too. So we're not just going to push any product on the site or partner with everyone. We want to make sure that it's really going to fit our audience and their needs. So I think in that sense, we're always evaluating the offer to make sure it is going to bring them value and it's going to serve a purpose for them. And making sure that we're kind of giving them enough options to say, hey, this is a great product, but here are 3 other options too that might be a good fit for you.
I think creditcards.com similarly is very different from Karma and very different than the points guy in that we're essentially, I don't think of us as a consumer brand necessarily, we're more of a found destination. And so I think the opportunities that unlocks are a little bit different. If you want volume, we can get volume, but if you want content and editorial that we can work with your PR teams to create and get out on the internet, we can do that as well. So I think it's a little bit of a different menu, not necessarily right and wrong partners, but more solutions oriented.
I think on the issuer side, we start with our consumer, the audience that we're trying to attract, ensuring that we've got the right product for them, and then we evaluate sites to see, to ensure that those sites have the audience that we think would be a natural synergy or marriage between our product value and what those consumers on that publisher site are looking for. So we try to ensure that we've got the categories covered and that we're appropriately optimized according to the strength of that particular publisher, so that consumers find relevancy and have trust in that publisher site. And then we suspect that they'd be more engaged with us if they choose to get our product versus competitors from that same publisher site.
We've heard the theme of personalization. You talk about your consumers. Can you hear me better now? You talk about your consumers, you talk about personalization. Is there anything in particular you are doing as a publisher to focus more on the consumer and personalizing the experience for the consumer to better your partnerships with your issuers? Yeah.
From a creditcards.com standpoint, we don't do any one-to-one personalization, but we do use technographic data to serve unique customer experiences based on that. I think to talk the Red Ventures portfolio, I'd kick it over to Kate where they're doing some interesting stuff with their app, and then I know Karma has obviously got a lot there.
Yep. Yeah, so we currently don't have personalization on site, but we are in the process of building out our 2PG app. We did have an app in the past, and we had since closed it for new downloads just to kind of revamp it and add some new functionality there. But and the new app is going to have login profiles where you can save which products you have, what are your favorite programs, and then you can also set some goals for yourself. So if you want to go to Hawaii next year, what cards or rewards are you currently earning, and then what else do you need to be earning to get there? And then also in that sense too, we could recommend different products to you based on what you have. And we will then eventually tie that into a personalized on-site experience as well, where those accounts will be linked together.
So just to add to that, I think that the biggest value proposition of Credit Karma would be personalization. So a vast majority of our applicants come in from a logged-in experience. So we know exactly who they are, and we obviously know their credit scores. And so we personalize it. At the moment when someone logs in, for each individual, for every single login, the site will go through all the permutations of all the products we have and rank order them in order of likelihood of approval. And so when I log in versus when you log in versus when you log in, we'll all see different products. Even if our credit score fluctuates by a few points, right? Because there's tons of attributes that go into the machine learning algorithm, and the results are produced so that we're catering the best product to put the best product in the hands of the consumer.
And Brian, from your perspective as an issuer, where do you see personalization fitting in? Strategies going.
You know, I feel like website marketing has been kind of one size fits all. You know, you throw your product on the publisher site, and then you're kind of ranked ordered, with the exception of partner, of course, but you're rank ordered against other products out there, and it's almost like walking down a grocery aisle looking at various kinds of orange juice, and like, how do you stand out? And then if somebody takes your product, you're like, oh great, I won that auction that time. But with personalization, or the better targeted we can be, there is an inherent assumption that consumers will be more engaged with our product, that our product is most relevant based off of digital behaviors or indicators that they've alluded to with their online searches or whatever information that our publisher would have on that consumer. So the more targeted we can be, we suspect the more qualified that account will be, or quality rather, that account will be for us, and the more engaged it will be, and that will just work out so much better. We'd rather have quality at scale versus quantity.
Awesome. So, Kasha, you talked about fintechs, and I think it's interesting because publishers can pretty much work with fintechs, and then you have the traditional banks, and your marketplace is the marketplace for whomever fits your customer, the consumer's interest. But these fintechs are disrupting traditional banking. So how does that affect your partnerships with the traditional banking?
So I think it helps us, because if we look at the stuff that we're working on today, so we have something called Easy Apply, where we serve the issuer's product. If the issuer signs up for it, we serve the issuer's product. The customer will click on Apply Now. We pre-fill their information. They're able to submit the application on our platform. Our APIs will go to the issuer platform, make a decision, and then render this decision on the CK platform. And then the next step would be to take that card, if it's approved, and be able to load it onto a mobile wallet, right, for immediate use. So I think technology is helping us with this disruption that's happening. I think it's a good thing. I think it makes it easier ultimately for the consumer, and that's our end goal.
How do you feel about that, Brian?
Yeah, I think for us, at the end of the day, it's about consumer choice and preference. We want consumers naturally to have the simplest experience that they could possibly have, to get immediate access to their line and their card product so that they can use it on their terms. And so we try to enable that and partner with our key publishers as much as possible in that effort, because it's all about ease of use and just ensuring that consumers get value, both from our product perspective, but then also from the financial perspective.
So also in the fintech space, where do you see partnerships evolving, over the next few years? Because you think about digital wallets, digital credit cards, the Apple Card, at the competition. Where do you see partnerships in the card space moving towards?
I think as somebody who runs a website called creditcards.com, it's pretty important to me that credit cards remain a big part of consumers' lives. I think I watch the sort of super platforms, the Ubers, the Apples, the Amazons, and look at them as a bigger threat than necessarily financial technology, because they already have demand aggregated. So I think it's good that Apple is launching a credit card, because that says that consumers want credit cards. If the average consumer has 3 or 4 cards in their wallet and one of them is their favorite platform, that's a little concerning as sort of a affiliate marketer.
So I completely agree, and this is my own opinion, but I think that credit cards are here to stay. If you look at all the disruptors to date, every single one of them is running on credit card rails. So including the Apple Card, right? Apple has a huge customer base. They could have come up with another solution, but they chose to go with the networks. The only one is Venmo, which is an exception, which is a peer-to-peer payment system, that also now you can use your credit card and make payments on that. So I think that credit cards are here to stay. I think partnerships will evolve and change as some of these new technologies come into play, but otherwise I don't see the swipe going away, at least not in the US.
I agree with that. I think the platform in which you acquire, like was stated earlier, is through is outside of the affiliate network. So that's really interesting. We're watching this space to see how many others try to go in and create, like this connected experience through their platform with their unique audience. But it'll be interesting to see how that evolves, and is that something that consumers will readily adopt?
I agree. I think credit cards are definitely here to stay, especially on TPG. But in the same sense, we are trying to diversify a bit away from credit cards and just work with other brands and even tech companies that make sense for our readers. And we're trying to go to them with more creative marketing campaigns and approaches. So we now have a bunch of different touch points that we can reach our audience with. So whether it's like podcast or our social channels, video events, kind of across the board now, we're trying to pull into each of those places and make really creative campaigns for them.
So credit cards are here to stay. Do you ever think it'll get to a point where, back to the Wild Wild West days, where quantity was more important than quality because of the rise in digital banking and all these other platforms introducing payment methods?
Personally, I don't think so, because investments are always being more and more scrutinized. And so we've got to demonstrate that we get the return on investment according to our financial metrics. And so in my opinion, there will never be this just accounts only without a deep review of the engagement, the behaviors that we're getting. There was a time where there was like this race to the bottom, as we like to refer to it, where whoever's offered the highest bonus points, would win in an auction place. But as we all kind of realized that that's not the most effective and efficient way to grow business. And so we are hyper-focused on not only the acquisitions experience, but the ongoing life cycle of that customer. And so we are in it to grow accounts, but have those accounts unbook over a long period of time. And so we're constantly measuring our return on investment, looking at our marketing mix, investments not only within the affiliate space, but across all channels, and seeing where we get like that optimal originations mix. And in my opinion, that doesn't include just a hyper focus on volume only.
While I wish it was going to go back to quantity, I think that based on our conversations that we've been having with issuers, it's definitely quality is being looked at more and more. And we haven't personally at TPG started moving over to that kind of analysis yet, I guess. But it's definitely something we're open to, and we want to be good partners with credit card issuers and make sure it's working for both sides. So we need to figure out how to get there.
And I think the great thing about this is that I completely agree that quality is being scrutinized more and more. And what's interesting is that what issuer A might want, right, or the quality of accounts issuer A might not want, for example, we have partners who would love to have those guys, right? Because their whole business model is different, their profitability metrics are different. So because of the whole personalization aspect, tying all of this together, it's great that we're able to offer a product for someone for an issuer who might want that quality, and then the quality that don't want is being absorbed by other partners. So in a way, we're catering to our partners and really giving them the quality / mix they want. Because that ties directly to profitability, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for issuers to put their cards on our platform.
Sure, certainly. Anything else? Okay. So, Kate, Brian, founder of Point Sky, phenomenal guy. He got his start as a blogger, what advice do you have for someone aspiring to be the next points guy? Do you say don't try it at all, or?
Yeah. I think it is a little bit of a crowded space now, but I definitely would suggest trying it if that's what you want to do. I know what has worked really well for Brian is having, or that has really set us apart, is that him being the personality behind it, and he's really like engaging with his audience, and it's amazing to see how many people think that the points guy is still just him behind a computer writing 100 posts a day. It's not. But it's still, people feel like they have that connection with him. So I think that's really important that he engages with the audience, and especially on social media. That has been huge for him, on Instagram stories, and just like really sharing his life and his travels. Even though maybe they're not the most relatable at times when he's his first class, it does have that aspirational side to it. So.
There it is, sorry. So I want to go back to the consumer and your thoughts on user-generated content, because that is also something that affects your partnerships. And how do each of you go about that and feel about that?
So I love the idea of user-generated content, and I think if I were in any industry that wasn't financial services with the focus on compliance, I'd be trying to find ways to incorporate it onto our website more and more. I think the downside of financial services is that user-generated content carries with it a ton of risk. So I'm generally staying away from it, I think, on my area.
Same thing. It probably doesn't apply too much to Credit Karma. We do have reviews of cards on our site, but again, those are far and few in between. We have editorials which is different, but as far as user-generated content goes, much like on the creditcards.com, we don't have much user-generated content.
I might be one of the few marketers who actually really loves UGC, simply because, like, years ago, I think it was painfully obvious that brands don't know themselves anymore. Customers have a voice, and they're expressive, at times in some very colorful ways. But then there are often times where you get some really helpful and useful information, and you can either choose to ignore it, in which you will see your business further detract and decline, or you can be very objective about it and figure out a way that, how does it help you become a better business? And so that's been our area of focus. We look at the user-generated comments, we see consumer complaints, and we're like, oh yeah, that is a problem, we should fix that. Or wow, when customers say, wow, it's really stupid. And then when I read it, I'm like, yeah, that is really stupid. And then we take that to heart, and then we go do something about it. So, we're only as good as the few people who are in our walls that think about marketing every day and our product strategy every day. But then you get like this fantastic consumer research without ever having to go do like, fly to a city and do this qualitative study. You get this, unended, open customer research that you can take advantage of and improve your business. And so that's what we look to do with UGC.
So we have a couple of different avenues for UGC. We have obviously our comment system on all of our editorial posts, and that's where we get a lot of feedback, even just almost like fact checking, which is really helpful for us. We also do get some of the internet trolls on there that like rip apart reviews and so forth that we do. But for the most part, it's lightly moderated, and it hasn't really gotten us into much trouble, which is nice. We also have our Facebook groups, which we have the TBG Lounge, where we have a really engaged audience in there that we can post different questions or polls or surveys, or we have moderators too that have nominated or have asked to be nominated to basically just review comments for free for us, which is really nice. So they kind of start their own interesting conversations in there, and we can help really explain products or answer questions directly in there. And then, I guess social media too would be the other one that we pull a lot of stories from social media, and we have reader success stories on site, and we'll award people with a gift card or something if we use their story. So that too just helps give a nice like, personal element to how someone is using their points or miles to actually make their travel dreams come true.
Yeah. So we will open it to the audience for a few questions, if there are any questions. Are there a few? Oh gosh. I don't know if I want him to go first. But before I do that, I would say to each of you, if anyone in the audience would like to partner with you, what are the opportunities and how should they go about it? You want to start, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunities are sort of what, it depends on who you are, I guess. You can reach out to me at gthompson@redventures.com, and we can talk about what you want to do and what you need, and we can figure out if there's a solution.
Yeah, same thing. I'm available. I'm here all day. Here tomorrow as well. Would love to chat with anyone who wants to.
I'd say, John, what's your phone number? Or email address, either personal address, whatever you need to do to get in contact with her. She travels a lot, so it's probably, pretty easy that you'll find her.
I would say anyone who is looking for any like creative marketing campaigns, please reach out, partner@thepointsguy.com. We can definitely help you make a really interesting campaign that's going to go across all of our channels. And then aside from that too, we also have our TPG partner program where we work with content sites that were either writing about credit cards and not monetizing it, or really haven't gotten in that space yet. So we syndicate content there and share affiliate links, almost as like a sub-affiliate network. So that's an option as well.
Awesome. Or you can call me. Work with all these lovely partners. So are there any questions in the audience? Oh, here we go.
Does any of you work with subprime ITIN numbers? ITIN numbers for clients that do not have Social Security?
Did everyone hear that question? Do they work with anyone with IT? What was it? IT numbers, people without Social Security numbers.
Puddle might be able to, Puddle Visa card, I think
I do have 2 or 3 of them. I was just wondering, since they happen to be
Are there any other, Edson, do you need a mic?
No, I don't. Hi. I'm Edson with Card Ratings. I had a question. This primarily is for Brian, but I guess it could be expanded beyond that. We've heard a lot about pre-qual or pre-screen. What do you think has been or will be the future of that? It's been priorities for different issuers at different times. Do you think that's ultimately the direction that they're going to head in? And what does that look like for the folks in affiliate marketing, given that there's actually a pretty significant technical investment in that? Is that going to mean a migration to just the large sites that are able to offer that capability, or is there going to be a broader application for most of the folks that are doing card marketing?
Yeah, great question. I think that it's an important component of the originations journey. So again, we just want to have the experience that consumers want. So some would prefer to go through a pre-qual experience rather than going the full application and then potentially not getting approved and having a negative impact on their credit. So I think pre-qual is a very important part of the journey. You get highly qualified leads, you can better personalize or tailor an offer based on what you know about somebody post that experience versus just in an untargeted fashion. So I think on the issuer side, it is very important, and it is an opportunity that we actively explore and want to do a lot of in the future. Like, we would like pre-qual to be a fairly large part of our mix.
And if you take that and take it from on the affiliate side, we are running. We're hoping to pre-approve down the line. Our long-term goal is to pre-approve everybody for the right product. Right.
Well, you're in a bit of a walled garden where you have information about folks.
Right.
But for the folks that don't have that, what's the implication for that?
Yeah, I think publishers who are actively thinking about that whether they build it or they integrate the issuer's pre-qual capability into their site. My preference would be to integrate an internal capability into the site, but I definitely see merit in having, for issuers who don't have that on their roadmap, I see merit in publishers building that themselves and offering that as a service to potentially get to a much more highly qualified lead.
Yeah, as a publisher that does not have a walled garden, we do have our pre-qual tool, CardMatch, and we think of it as an integral part of our forward-looking roadmap, and it has been up to this point. So it's something we're continuing to invest in because I agree with all these guys. It's something that I think continues.
Thank you.
Other questions? Come on, don't be shy. This is how you forge a great partnership. Asking questions, being honest and transparent. No one's gonna bite here. Oh, I don't know if I want you. Come on, Matt.
You're hearing the term recession quite a bit lately. Has anyone seen the impact of that term, or do you expect to see any type of impact in your business?
I think for us, I mean, our goal, regardless of economic environment, is to, acquire accounts responsibly. And so, regardless of whether we're heading into a recession or not, we have to have products and services and a credit policy that deliver the accounts according to our financial metrics. So that's where we place our main emphasis. Regardless of economic environment, I think you always have to be responsible. If you're in incredibly good times, bad will come, and if you're in bad times, then that change will come as well. But you have to be booking responsibly across a spectrum.
And to add to that, partnerships are even more important when you are going through a recession and through those difficult times. Is how do you work through those challenges together and stick with it? Lower payouts, no. Free placement opportunities, kidding. How about that?
Yeah, lower CPAs is always.
Are there any other questions in the audience? Come on. In the back there, I see you. Is that it?
Well, I'll ask a cyber question. We had heard a talk this morning from Adam Levin about all the concerns about fraud, hacking into websites. I guess the question is, how does a consumer who looks at your website or gets a promotion from your website know that it's your brand and your website that they're going to apply to and provide personal information to? Just on any of the websites?
I think from our side, we're passing them through to the issuer side, so we're not collecting any of that information. I think down the line, as we get in more of that personalization space, we're going to have to be a lot more clear about what we are collecting, but it wouldn't ever be that really sensitive.
For us on the issuer side, if you were to ask me what keeps me up at night, it is actually application fraud. The fraud rings out there. Synthetic fraud is a huge issue. So those fraudsters who figured out a way to make their credit bureau look like a genuine consumer, that's been on the rise for quite some time. And they figured out ways to look very legitimate. So, slightly different answer to your question because it's more about how can consumers trust. I mean, there is a direct handshake from publishers to issuers, but even in that direct handshake, in our site or our application coming up authentically, the fraud rings have really figured out unique ways to look like your standard consumer. So tools that we have in place are great, but it's still a threat.
Yes.
So obviously being close partners, as you guys mentioned, requires a lot of trust. How are you handling the FTC compliance and also the terms for each advertiser? So most of this is for the publisher side, but if, obviously Wells Fargo, you have your own specific terms, but so does Citi and Chase and Capital One. For the publishers, how are you guys making sure you're all in compliance with that and also the all the regulations going on?
So we have a very large compliance team that actively looks at that. So anytime interest rate changes or there's any, and we rely a lot on our partners like Rakuten to help us go through that, let us know what changes are coming about, and then we constantly keep monitoring. But yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, I think it's definitely challenging, and it seems to change pretty frequently, especially among the different partners. Even with like emails that we're sending out or something, like the rule changes pretty often, I think. We do have our own compliance team that monitors all of that, and all of the ads that go up on the site. Those are also reviewed first to make sure they're including the proper disclosures and trademarks where necessary. And so we kind of have a checks and balances on our end, and like a playbook of what compliance steps need to be taken first before something goes live.
And I think we're in the same boat. I think the only thing I'd add is communicating with the issuers and with Rakuten and CJ and the other agencies in between, and it generally works pretty well because of that communication, I think, and that transparency.
And just from the issuer's perspective, I definitely applaud all of my publisher colleagues here, because I know that they're managing hundreds of offers across many financial services companies, and the precision to which they do that is pretty impressive.
So we're talking a lot about pre-qualified experiences and some amount of data sharing. So I'm just curious, as far as your strongest partnerships go, both from the issuer side and from the publisher side, to what extent have you participated in data sharing, especially around audience? And do you think that's going to be a pivotal part of partnerships moving forward, considering the increase in targeted offers, et cetera?
I can start. I think that we openly talk about who our target segment is by product, and we do share some of like the back end results in terms of how performance is happening from that specific site. I think that going forward, the more that we can share and the more that we can have aligned business goals, the better off we will be collectively, just as an issuer and publisher kind of in industry. So that is like going to be a increasingly more critical part of the relationship.
Sorry, follow-up question. Do you envision that either Wells Fargo and or other issuers will get to a point where they're interested in outright like buying audience data to like increasingly understand audience segments?
I think that there's a case for that, especially with DMPs actively involved. So the more you can get to like a programmatic type of integration or marketing experience, I think the better off we'll be. So I definitely think that there's a place for that, whether it be through DMP or LiveRamp. We've got to collectively figure out a way, how do we get to more qualified leads, whether it be our own existing customer or consumers that fit our target audience.
I think speaking more generally, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 5 to 10 years with what's going on in Europe and how much of that makes it over to the United States, because I think that changes this conversation pretty dramatically. If you're a publisher running a site without a logged-in experience, you're not going to be able to use data like that nearly as aggressively. So I think we're in a little bit of a wait-and-see approach there.
Hi, I'm David from the Credit Pros. Specifically around data sharing, what the best strategic partnership, what kind of data points, what are the best data points you would look for in a strategic partner to be shared with you?
I think from the publisher side, we've heard a lot of talk about getting quality accounts and that kind of information. What we'd love to know is, say we send 100 accounts in a month, how do those bake out from a quality standpoint? And then what other data can you attach to that would let us get signals when somebody comes to our site to say, hey, this consumer looks like this kind of quality.
And the way it works for us is great, because the more data that's sent to us, our machine learning models and AI will continuously process that information and then serve those offers to like customers who you have approved or denied in the past.
I think that's. Is it going to be good? What's your question?
We're talking a lot about pre-qual qualification, which is obviously in the issuer's best interest. They want candidates, they want applicants that will actually approve of those cards. But are you guys looking at anything like matching a user or potential applicant with a card that will actually work best for them? Say, a card that's going to earn them the most rewards, a card that will benefit them from, say, like a balance transfer perspective. Everything seems to be qualified, but I wonder if it's, you know, if there's anything on that side of the equation that we're looking at, especially particularly credit card.
So I think that's a really good question. I think it kind of automatically does that. So if you go to the site and look at balance transfer cards, for example, and you click on that link for balance transfer cards, if that's what you're looking for, it'll rank from 1 to 10 the likelihood of approval for that balance transfer card. So that kind of answers your question. So if that's because what we would have a hard time doing is understanding what the mindset of the consumer is. We don't know, like if they are looking for a balance transfer card or they're looking to maximize rewards. So initially when you log in, you will see a list of who you're pre-approved for, all the way down with all of our partners. But then if you go into specifics, like balance transfer, if you're looking for a small business card, if you're looking for a travel card, again, it does the same calculation focused on that segment of cards. So it does do that in effect, but it's hard to predict exactly what they're looking for. So off the onset, it's hard to serve.
But say somebody, I mean, it's pretty binary. Somebody's either probably going to qualify for a card or not going to qualify for a card. So say they're probably pre-approved for half of those cards. One of those cards might be better for them, maybe based on length of 0% APR period, post-promotional APR, like there's things like that. So that's why I wonder if those things could be factored in.
It's a really good question. Part of it, we rely on our machine learning models. So let's say you apply for a card, and 100 people like you apply for a specific card. What we do is we'll look at, it's hard for us to see exactly what best means for, it depends on each specific person, but the machine will pick up, the machine learning model will pick up that, hey, 100 people of this profile apply for this card, so let's serve this card to the 101st customer.
Well, there's actually two components. There's a pre-screen and pre-qualify, and then there's a matching piece. So the pre-screen, pre-qualify is what the bank says, okay, this is somebody that we want, and then the ordering part can go into whatever algorithm that you choose as to what category do you use the most, how much do you spend, et cetera, and then that would render your response.
Awesome. Well, I thank you all so much for your time. This is a great panel, and I just want to say in closing, this partnership is amazing because Kenny is literally getting married in 2 weeks. Cautious on paternity leave. Winn could have been, Brian could have been on the beach, and Kate just got back from Japan. And I value your partnership greatly. Thank you for being here, and thank you all for joining our session on Forging Strong Partnerships in the Space.